I never thought I'd become the kind of man who tells a story like this. My name is Ethan, and for most of my life, I've kept my business and my personal life completely separate. I'm not the type to flash my bank balance or parade expensive things in front of people. I've always believed that the way you treat someone says more about you than what's in your wallet. But apparently, that was my first mistake. I met Chloe at a friend's birthday party. She was lively, quick with a joke, and had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. We started dating soon after, and in the beginning, I thought she was genuine. She never asked about my work, never seemed to care about expensive dinners or luxury trips. I took that as a sign she liked me for who I was. Of course, I later realized she wasn't asking because she had already assumed. She thought I was just comfortable, not struggling, but definitely not rolling in money. She was right about one thing. I didn't live like a billionaire. But she couldn't have been more wrong about the rest. I own a chain of logistics companies across 3 states, but I keep my lifestyle simple. I drive a modest car, live in a quiet house, and wear clothes you wouldn't look twice at. I wanted someone who liked me, not my bank account. We dated for almost 2 years. Then one evening, Chloe told me she needed to talk. She said she'd been feeling uncertain about our future. She wanted stability, and in her words, she had found someone who could offer it. Translation? She met a man with a flashier life. His name was Brandon, an investment banker known for posting yacht pictures and champagne brunches on Instagram. She told me, almost without shame, that Brandon was better positioned to give her the life she deserved. I didn't argue. I just nodded, wished her well, and walked away. But here's the thing. Brandon's net worth didn't even scratch the surface of mine. Still, I didn't see the point in proving her wrong. Let her think she'd upgraded. 3 months later, I ran into them at an upscale restaurant. The kind of place that requires reservations weeks in advance. I was there meeting a business partner for dinner. Chloe spotted me first, and I'll never forget the smirk on her face. "Wow, Ethan," she said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Didn't expect to see you here. Can you even afford this place?" Brandon chuckled, sipping his wine like some character out of a bad soap opera. My business partner raised an eyebrow, clearly uncomfortable. I just smiled and said, "I manage." But inside, something clicked. I had no interest in competing with Brandon, but the way they mocked me, so openly, made me decide something. They were going to find out exactly who they were laughing at. I didn't have to scheme or create some elaborate revenge plan. Life has a way of setting the stage for you. All you have to do is wait for the right moment to walk on. And that moment came sooner than I expected. A week after that awkward restaurant run-in, I attended an annual charity gala. It was one of those events where business leaders, investors, and a sprinkling of celebrities gather to throw money at a cause, and maybe at each other's egos. I'd been a silent donor to this charity for years. My name was never plastered across banners or announced from the stage. But that night was different. The board wanted to publicly recognize my contributions, and I had agreed, mostly out of respect for the organization. I arrived in a tailored tux, nothing flashy, but well-fitted enough to turn a few heads. And wouldn't you know it, Chloe and Brandon were there. She was draped in a glittering dress, clutching his arm like a prize she'd just won at a fair. Her eyes widened when she saw me. I caught the brief flicker of confusion in her face before it was replaced by that same smug expression. Brandon gave me a curt nod, clearly thinking I'd somehow snuck into an event out of my league. During the dinner, the host took the stage to announce the charity's largest single donor of the year. I wasn't paying much attention until I heard my own name. "Tonight, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to Mr. Ethan Ward, whose contributions have funded 3 new shelters and multiple community programs. Please join me in thanking him for his extraordinary generosity." The applause was loud enough to make Brandon's smirk evaporate. Chloe's eyes darted to me, her mouth slightly open. I walked to the stage, shook hands with the board members, and gave a short speech. Nothing too showy, just a few heartfelt words about giving back. But the whispers around the room told me everything. People were connecting the dots. When I returned to my table, Chloe looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon. Brandon avoided eye contact entirely. After dessert, Chloe approached me while Brandon was talking to someone else. "Ethan," she started, her voice a mix of disbelief and something that almost sounded like regret. I didn't know you were so involved in things like this. Involved, I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean successful? She flushed. I didn't realize. I cut her off gently. You didn't ask. You assumed. And you made your choice. I let the words hang there, not out of bitterness, but because they were the truth. She hesitated, then said something I'll never forget. You know, things with Brandon aren't exactly what I thought. I smiled, polite but distant. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Then I excused myself before she could say more. I didn't need to gloat or rub anything in her face. The realization was written all over hers. The next few weeks were interesting. Word travels fast in certain circles, and soon enough, I started hearing that Brandon's wealth was mostly appearances. Debt, over-leveraging, risky deals, the works. Chloe, predictably, wasn't showing up in his Instagram posts anymore. Then one morning, I received a text from her. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I never replied. Not because I was angry, but because by then I understood something important. People who value you for your worth, not your wealth, don't need to be taught a lesson. And the ones who don't? Life usually teaches them for you. Months passed, and I'd nearly forgotten about Chloe and Brandon. Until fate threw one last twist my way. I was at a high-profile investment conference in Miami, invited as a keynote speaker. The venue was packed with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and media. I was scheduled for the second day, so on the first evening, I mingled at the welcome reception. And there they were. Brandon looked different. He'd lost some of that overconfident swagger, replaced by an edge of nervousness. Chloe was beside him, but this time her dress wasn't designer, her makeup not quite as polished. They spotted me almost instantly. Brandon approached first, forcing a smile. Ethan. Long time. Brandon, I said, matching his tone but not his false warmth. Chloe gave me a hesitant nod, her eyes searching mine for some kind of opening. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, but it was obvious. Something had shifted. Brandon eventually excused himself to grab a drink, and Chloe wasted no time. I heard about your keynote tomorrow, she said softly. Congratulations. Thanks, I replied. Should be a good crowd. She hesitated, biting her lip. Brandon's not doing so well. Some investments didn't work out. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I meant it, not for him, but because I don't enjoy seeing anyone sink. She looked at me, then really looked. I made a mistake, she whispered. I held her gaze for a moment, then gave a small shrug. We all do. For a second, I thought she might cry, but she just sighed and walked away, blending into the crowd. The next morning, I took the stage for my keynote. My talk was about resilience, smart risk-taking, and why humility in business often pays more than arrogance. The audience responded with enthusiasm. And as I stepped down, I caught sight of Chloe and Brandon at the back of the room. They weren't smiling. Later, a mutual acquaintance told me that Brandon's company had collapsed under debt, and that he was facing legal trouble. Chloe had left him, again chasing stability, I assumed. And me? I wasn't interested in being anyone's second choice. My life was full. Friends who knew me before my wealth, business partners who respected my mind, and family who loved me regardless of my bank account. One night, as I sat in my study, I reflected on the whole thing. There was a time when I might have fantasized about showing Chloe what she lost, about rubbing my success in her face. But the truth was, living well is the only statement that matters. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her regret. I just needed to keep building the life I wanted, on my own terms. Still, part of me knew the story would live on, told in whispers and half-truths by people who only knew part of it. And maybe that was fine. Let them guess, let them wonder. Because the real victory wasn't in proving her wrong. It was in proving myself right.